You can trust us to answer the questions we raised, and this is also going to get way deeper. A big part of our conversation today was how we plan to hook our readers with our opening scenes.
And one of the things that we're going to need that for is our upcoming writing exercise for this week. We're transitioning a little bit, and instead of going through some pre-planned writing exercises that are focusing on specific aspects, like making sure you're using good descriptors or things like that, we're just going to try to write scenes to our book. And I am going to be writing the very opening scene of the book, and Steve is going to be writing a scene that comes a little bit later.
Right, so your scene is that very first interaction that we get to see between Vanessa and Arnold. So we meet Vanessa, but from Arnold's point of view.
Right, and that scene was actually your idea. That was something that was first brought up back in, I think we mentioned it in like episode 12.
So we'll try to put a link there.
Yep.
To see episode 12. But my scene then is going to be Vanessa's reflection on that interaction. So in there we get to see Arnold from Vanessa's point of view.
So yeah, as you mentioned, we spent some time figuring out what does the opening scene, the opening portion of the book need to look like. And so one of the things that my scene does is it introduces the characters. It's obviously an important part of the book, right, is knowing who your characters are, but it focuses more on the personal aspect of who are these people that we're going to be going through this story with. And then we also need to figure out what setting is this in, what is the world like, and that is what your scene gets into more, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But my scene also raises some small questions about people, such as Vanessa is going to ask Arnold a question that displays that she knows some very specific details about him that not many people know. And so there's this question of, how does Vanessa know this about me? And then there's also going to be a question in his internal dialogue that we'll see of, why is someone like her talking to me? Which will also then raise the question of, what is it about Arnold and Vanessa that makes him ask that sort of question?
And together, these scenes, they introduce how Arnold, what is it about these people? Arnold feels like he's not respected, and we get to see a little bit of how that may even be true. And then Vanessa feels like she doesn't belong. So this is the beginnings of their individual character arcs. And so my scene will then answer some of the questions that are raised in Nathan's scene, but then we'll also raise some bigger questions about the people, but also about the world. In that scene, I will be referencing some of the communication that Vanessa has had with the future scientists, and it raises questions about, how did this happen? What's this? What are we talking about? What's going on? So through that combination, we communicate something as authors to the reader in raising the questions, then answering them, and then raising bigger questions. We get to communicate that you can trust us to answer the questions we raised, and this is also going to get way deeper.
Yes, it is going to get very deep, as you've seen if you've looked at some of our past spoiler episodes. Another interesting thing of my scene is that we are going to introduce a symbol that is going to relate to Arnold and Vanessa's relationship, but it's not going to be obvious that it's a symbol. And I don't know when it's going to become obvious that that is a symbol. Definitely going to be much later in the book. Possibly not even until the last scene. We're not really sure.
Right, we're not sure.
But it is going to be part of one of those whoa moments that we talked about wanting to have. I think that was in episode 30. And again, we'll put a link to it, whether it's episode 30 or not. Well, we've talked about those whoa moments that we want. And this symbol that we introduce is going to be a part of one of those.
Right. And we're looking at the structure. We don't think that these two scenes are going to be right next to each other. There may be some additional Arnold point of view scenes, or we may need to introduce yet an even earlier Vanessa point of view scene. But we do want to make sure that they are in the same chapter. And in doing so, we want to prepare the readers to learn how to interpret how we change point of view, to recognize that even within a chapter, yes, we will be telling from different people's point of view, and here's how you can tell. So those are the ideas that we have of what's important for an opening scene or opening scenes.
Right.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. So what else do you think is important for an opening scene of a remarkable story? We're looking forward to read your comments, and we will see you again next week.